Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Heather Frierson, and I'm your host of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have Rachel Stazzone, CEO and owner of Innovation Event Management. And today we're going to be diving into her story and all about her journey to business ownership, best practices, challenges, and really just share a sneak peek of what it's like to own and operate a business. So, if this is your first time to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe so that you get a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. Well, welcome to the show, Rachel. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to join you today.
Well, I can't wait to dive in because I love all things events. I'm an event girl. If there's a fun event, I want to go. So I love knowing all the background, the behind the scenes. So why don't you just set the stage with us for us and just share a little bit about your background and about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me. So I am a Texas girl, born in California, but went to school in a little West Texas town called Winters, K through 12. 56 people in my graduating class. So,
Wow.
it was a small, dot on the map, but a big impact on who I am today. So I'm real proud of
Mhm.
that. But made my way to Texas A&M. So I'm a proud Aggie and had some really unique opportunities in the business school when I was there studying. And one of those led me to the Silicon Valley. I was kind of tossed my name out in what was a very new world of internet and email, relatively new
Mhm.
back then. It was the late 90s, and I submitted my resume to the Silicon Valley A&M Club and just said, looking for an internship or an opportunity to learn. Let's see what happens. Well, the now owner of Roku, Anthony Wood, is an Aggie. And at that time, back in
Wow.
the 90s, he had a little startup called Replay TV. And I went and worked for him for a few months and got an amazing experience jumping in and wearing all the hats. I was very cheap labor or maybe free, I don't know, but spent 3 or 4 months as kind of the person that just stepped in and did everything. So I was still determining what it was I wanted to do. I
Mhm.
was considering maybe international business. My dad is an entrepreneur. He's owned businesses. So I've been reading, profit losses since I was a little kid, and just it sort of runs in my blood. But I didn't know for sure which direction I wanted to go. And that summer, um, I got thrown in pitching the Wall Street Journal on pausing
Wow.
live TV. It was a relatively new concept, new
Mhm.
technology. We were rushing to market against other competitors. And it was just an amazing experience. And during that, I got to do investor events.
Oh, wow.
And so I did the PR side, I did the marketing side, but what I really loved was interacting and the
Mm.
element of live events, setting it up, organizing it, and educating people on what product and service Replay TV had to offer. And so when I came back to A&M, had the opportunity, kind of had to decide, do I want to jump ship, graduate early and do kind of pre-IPO, or do I want to finish out? And I decided to finish my full time at A&M, and it was a blessing. I
Mhm.
took a job in Austin and graduated and moved here and worked for National Instruments, which is an
Mhm.
engineering firm here in Austin. And I was in their marketing team. I got hired on in the event marketing department, but within events. And so I was an
Mm.
event manager, moved up and did seminar meeting manager, team lead, and my boss left on maternity leave. So I kind of lucked out getting a little
Mhm.
more on my plate than I would have right out of school. So I spent the first couple of years just doing everything. Had a lot of great experience. And so then after a couple of years, I had the opportunity. Like I said, my dad is in the world of business. He
Mhm.
stumbled across an opportunity to buy a business that was in the world of consumer shows and,
Mm.
not trade shows, but consumer shows. And he and some other investors were looking at purchasing that, and they needed someone to run it. And because I was in the event world, female, kind of understood what needed to be done. I was given the opportunity to, you know, put in what I could offer at that time, which
Mhm.
was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And
Yeah.
earned, some sweat equity, put in what I could to sort of take the risk. And I left an amazing job, an amazing team, and a lot of security at National Instruments, sort of for my dream job to run a business. And
Wow.
the investors were never involved day to day, but they were huge pieces of my network and support system. So I ended up being in business with my father and another business associate they were both in their I won't call it
Mhm.
retirement, but on the tail end of their
Yes, their
careers.
last yes.
And they had so much information to,
Mm.
for me to glean, and it was a really great opportunity. So I jumped in, was the general manager, and the company that we bought was an arts and crafts event company that was run by a woman who had started it. She had run it for 25 years and she was done. She was ready to retire, get out of the
Mhm.
business, go have knee replacement surgery. She was just physically, done. And I was 24 and had a lot of energy and a lot of time to travel. So,
Mhm.
jumped in, ran the business out of Fredericksburg, the Hill Country,
Oh,
and we did arts and crafts shopping shows all over the state of Texas.
how
Um,
fun.
it was a lot of work. I grew the company. In the first couple of years, we were at one point running 32 consumer shows a year,
Mm.
which were on the weekends, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday show. And I began to hire young talent, other Aggies right out of school to help. Back then, I went and ran the shows, went to all the shows,
Mhm.
worked. I had a apartment in Fredericksburg, and I had a house in Austin. I just kind of juggled what I could
Yeah.
to just roll up my sleeves and learn it from the bottom all the way up. And then in 2005, I really felt like we needed to do more than just consumer shows. I missed sort of the B2B element of
Mm.
events that I had done at National Instruments and at Replay. And my vision was we need to get this company moved to Austin where I
Mm.
can hire talent that wants to live, in Austin. I've got universities and colleges nearby that
Mhm.
I can, pick from. And so, against the advice of back then, my partners, I just said, this is where we need to go. This is my vision, and we're going
Mm.
to move to Austin. So, we picked up, moved the company to Austin in 2005, and really have never looked back. We expanded into the world of meeting and conference management, and
Mm.
originally just did some events kind of word of mouth. Had some associations and different groups that were looking for help to plan their meetings.
Mhm.
Some attorneys that would put together conferences to basically, get Zoom to get their lobby money, and
Uh-huh.
needed more than just a Zoom meeting. They needed in person, and so I had done that and
Wow.
stepped in and just built the SOPs from scratch, and we just figured it out little by little. Were asked, okay, can you help this board? Can you run this event? And in 2007, I asked my brother, who was graduating from UT grad school, if he would be interested in partnering with me because we were growing beyond what I could handle. And I was having my first kiddo, and I wanted help. At that
Mhm.
time, I had bought out the partners, not entirely, but to the point where I knew where I wanted to go and
Mhm.
grow, and it was bigger than I could handle on my own. So my brother joined me and has been a partner, and through the years, we've bought out all other partners and investors involved, and now run the company, just the two of us. We're still hub woman owned, so just we run it equally, but I stay majority simply for that woman owned
Mhm.
factor. But we now have a GSA federal contract for conference and convention meeting work, and we have a Tex Mass contract, and we're a hub, woman owned company. And so we now produce only maybe 8 consumer shows that we still own and
Mm.
operate and run, and that's actually a separate entity now, and Innovation Event Management operates about this year we'll run between 150 to 200 meetings, conferences, and conventions
Wow.
for clients. So a majority of our work now is government. It took us
Mm.
many years to get those contracts in place, and we now have a whole division that just responds to, RFPs and bids and work. And
Wow.
government work is so radically different, but it's been incredible. We've had
Mhm.
some hiccups with COVID, completely
I
shut
was
our
gonna ask.
yeah.
Yeah, like I remember during COVID, as did so many people have to pivot, but events really took a hard knock.
Yeah,
Um,
it was brutal.
yeah.
We literally shut down and were shut down. We did pivot. We retained. I mean, I definitely had to let go of some really great talent.
Mm.
It was the first time in 20 years that I had laid anyone off due to downsizing or any kind of,
Mm.
you know, beyond my
Yeah.
choice of letting someone go.
Right.
And it was tough. It was really hard. We ended up going to work from home. We made the decision, my partner and I, and John Morris, we just said, if we can get through to the other side, we
Yeah.
feel like we will be the company standing, and we can
Mm.
really, clean up with what work is available. And so we retained our top talent and,
Wow.
mid managers, and basically paid them while they were doing nothing but
Mm.
educating themselves and learning new things like Zoom meetings and online
Yeah.
platforms and new
Has that
registration
become
platforms. Yeah.
has that become a new norm for events that you do where it's what ratio would you say it is? 50-50 for live, online? How does that work?
Yeah. We have a lot of what we call hybrid events. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say 60 to 70% of our larger conferences and convention work have an element of hybrid, meaning they're either recording the sessions, they've
Okay.
got live attendees that are in the back end. And or they're rebroadcasting to their group of people. But yeah, it's a component that is the norm. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we'll have a live meeting or convention and they don't want to offer that, but it's pretty rare that that
Yeah.
doesn't happen. Now, a lot of our smaller meetings, we do Office of the Governor, we do their small meeting summits all over Texas. And some of those meetings are just meant for the experience and the networking and the one-on-one. And we will video or record some for their
Okay.
professional, purposes. But some of those smaller meetings are still, in person and don't have the
Mm-hmm.
AV component. But yeah, most
When
of
you
our
s-
most of our
when you
things.
say you do their events, tell us what that means.
Yeah,
Obviously, you're recording
sure.
live, but what is on the back end? What does that look like? A client comes to you and says, I want to do a conference.
Mhm.
Give us a list of things you provide.
Yeah. So we have a wide range of services. We do everything from, if you kind of think through the life of an event.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get hired and engaged with a client, we first sit down with the client and understand what it is that they want,
Mm-hmm.
what's their goal, what's their purpose, what's the vision. And then what we do is help them um, plan for that in a sense that we schedule all the planning meetings. We're sort of the taskmaster. We're driving all those event meetings from a standpoint of staying organized. We do everything with the event except the content itself.
Mm.
And that's where our clients are the experts in what it is they do. And so
Mm-hmm.
we will push and organize them to say, okay, action coaching. What do you guys want to accomplish? Who are the
Mm-hmm.
guest speakers that you want to invite? What do you want the sessions to be about? What is this track? Whatever, what is
Wow.
the look? And then what we do is we build it out from a logistics standpoint, get the list of, speakers. If they say, we just want you to go find a keynote, here's our budget, we will go do all the legwork behind the scenes to
Mm-hmm.
line all of that up to where the clients just are showing up for the event and looking good.
Yeah.
We organize it. So sometimes that's, that can be, we do huge conventions that are,
Mm-hmm.
6,000 people attend. And so we're
Wow.
planning those, 18 months in advance. They're a big lead time. We're booking hotels and space years in advance for some of those larger ones. But typically we get involved 12 to 9 months before a big event or conference or meeting. And then we plan with that committee. Sometimes it's a nonprofit. So it's a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
volunteers, that are
Mm-hmm.
volunteering their time once a month to get on the planning calls. A lot of times we work with an executive director or
Okay.
their small staff. So they don't have an event team. So we step in and fulfill that. But we will help them if they want to bring in exhibitors. We will help
Mm-hmm.
them build the lead lists and do the outreach. We'll lock in the booths. We do booth sales for a number of clients and larger trade shows. We manage online
Yeah.
booth sales. We'll set up
Wow.
the platform and do it. And then once we get going, some groups have sponsors, some don't, but
Yeah.
sponsorship management is a big piece of what we do for a lot of them. We'll solicit the sponsor and then we set up the agreement, collect the payment, make sure the benefits are fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
get the logos, get all the tchotchkes done.
Yes.
We make sure that the sponsors are very happy with the investment that they are
Mm-hmm.
putting forward for the event or to support that group. And so there's a lot of pieces that are very different, but we help define what that means for the client. And then
Right.
as the event gets closer, we secure the space. We handle all of the suppliers. So that can be a decorator company. We handle all the logistics of coordinating it. If it's at a hotel or convention
Mm-hmm.
center, we coordinate with those teams to do, the AV needs. We do the food and beverage needs, any kind of
So
security.
the client really just gets to show up and be the talent.
They do, yeah. So,
I love that.
we actually started our own AV company.
Okay.
It's we've been doing that about 8 or 10 years now, but we saw a
Mm-hmm.
big need when our
Yeah.
clients would go to hotels and they would be, quite frankly, gouged on the price. What
Mm.
it just took to set up simple screens
Yeah.
and audio visual. And so, like I said, my partner and I just said, this is a
Yeah.
no-brainer. We'll just
Yeah.
capitalize, buy the equipment, hire the teams, and now that is a huge piece of what we do. Matter of fact, there's events we were doing last week, a number of events around Texas
Mm-hmm.
that were just AV. They have a
Wow.
full event staff,
Yeah.
but they don't have the AV. So now that's started as an ancillary,
Yeah.
revenue stream, but now it's a pretty big piece of what
That's really
service we
cool.
can offer. But then on site, we offer registration system services.
Mm-hmm.
So we will set up a registration platform, test it, make sure it's exactly what it looks like. If you guys were doing a conference, we would build it to where it would
Yeah.
seamlessly go from your website to the
Mm-hmm.
registration system, look like the same. And then we handle all the questions from attendees, sponsors, exhibitors.
Yeah.
And so, there's a big piece, the bigger the conference, obviously, the
Mm-hmm.
more resources it requires. But, at the end of the day, you just have to be really, really organized.
Right.
You have to be very flexible and just solution oriented
Mm-hmm.
and just calm. And,
Yeah, for sure.
it's our team is what makes us amazing. The team that I have and those folks that I
Yeah.
held on to that made it through COVID with us are some of my key leadership people now. And it
Yeah.
really paid off.
I was actually going to ask about your team because you've had a big evolution career
Mhm.
wise with just this company from arts and crafts, starting it with your dad or who was an investor and a partner to
Yeah.
now being a staple in Austin and I'm sure beyond as a
Right.
company that can provide all this. So team is important. And I know that as our audience is listening, they have different companies, but everybody has a team
Mhm.
and has to learn how to develop them. So with this type of industry, how do you lean into really team development and how do you measure or really maintain that
Yeah,
team?
that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, our team is without a doubt, with any company, and we've done a lot. We've done some other, ventures as well, and it's
Mhm.
always the team that matters. My biggest thing is I'd rather be, um, heading down the wrong road with the right bus of people
Mm,
and the right
mhm.
bus, yeah, and then the wrong bus heading, in the right direction.
Right.
You just can't accomplish what you've got to accomplish. And we've so many times pivoted and changed and
Yeah.
started new ventures or new brands through the years. We've done huge music festivals outdoors. We've done fashion shows. I mean, there's nothing that
Mhm.
the team can't and won't try and
Yeah.
do. But, some of my team, the some of the people that have been with us the longest, and my key managers and partners now, we have developed them like my what I would say, our right hand person is a gal that started with us as an intern in college.
Mm.
And in, the mid 2000s, I could see on day one, she was a go-getter, she could
Yeah.
hustle, and it didn't really matter if she knew or had the skill, knew what to do immediately when she got the project, she figured it out. And
Mm.
that hustle and just grit and everything was what we were looking for, and what we always look for.
Yeah.
But, we hired her out of college. She started with us. She was an event manager for a number of years. She was a supervisor for a number of years. She's now an income partner with us, and
Mm.
has been with us, and is a huge critical piece of our
Yeah.
success. She's
That's great.
amazing, but she was like-minded and treats the
Mhm.
company like it's her company, and she
Yeah.
has a lot of pride in that. And I've got another, director of events that's been with us, 9 years, and the same thing. She just treats it, with such pride and integrity in what she does, that you can't really teach and train that. People either have
Sure.
that level of
Yeah.
integrity or they don't. And our best results are when we bring someone in and we train them, obviously, with our training program, how
Mm.
it is that we do it, but they can work their way up and learn. Well, after event managers have been with us a few years, we ask them, "What direction do you wanna take
Mm.
your career?" So, do you wanna lean into sales and marketing? Do you wanna lean into customer development? Do you wanna lean into, logistics?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself growing with
So
us?
you actually
And
have a training
yeah,
path when someone comes in. So I think
yeah.
that's so important that sometimes companies will just dive in.
Yeah,
But
and we did for a number of years, just dive
sure,
in and sorta hair on
sometimes
fire,
you have to, right? When you're
Yeah,
starting
you
out.
have to when you're really small. Last year, we hired 6 new people in 1 year,
Mm.
and I had to, bring on a hiring coordinator just to handle
Mm.
and onboard. We updated all of our training manuals, and processes, and it's by no means perfect, or it's always a work in motion,
Yeah.
but we ask for feedback, and we have
Mm.
testing now. We have what we call IM Academy, which is just a fun way of, like, testing on the material that we're teaching
Wow.
so that they pass sort of the questions and the sections, to where we feel comfortable that they're retaining it, but then they can
Mhm.
ask questions as they go as well. But the
Yeah.
best way to learn anything is we do throw new people in from a standpoint of get them to an event and let them
Yeah.
shadow. So
Yeah.
I do feel like most people need the hands-on experience. They just need
Sure.
to be at an event. And we do the on-site management for so many events that it's great to just throw a new hire in and just say,
Mhm.
okay, you're the helping hands behind registration desk, check people
Yeah.
in, give them their badge, help, communicate. And that allows them to just be, I always tell people you're a sponge, you're just
Mm.
absorbing for the first 6 months,
Mhm.
really. I mean, you're helping and you're getting a lot of responsibility, but that's at the pace that you're ready for it. But you can always be absorbing, and learning.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
our team is, I mean, our team is incredible. We've got a really young group, a lot of energy, a lot of exciting ideas. And I have tried always to run the company the way I would want to be
Mhm.
if I'm a new employee or a young
Yeah.
employee. And I luckily had really great managers and leadership at the places that I had experienced prior to this. My
Mm.
management leadership team in California was awesome. My manager in leadership at National Instruments was wow, it's just
Yeah.
you glean what worked, and then some of the things that you didn't love,
Yeah.
you do
You figure it
differently.
out. Yeah.
Mhm. But yeah.
I would think events, because I've, been in events before, but it's really hard sometimes to measure, except, great job. So, what are some of the things that you put in place to measure, KPIs, and how do you maintain that data so that the team can continue to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. We have what we call a client satisfaction measurement.
Mm-hmm.
So after every event, we actually have bonuses that are earned for our event team, and they're actually called client satisfaction bonuses. And what we do is when we say, okay, you've been with us long enough now, it's time to give you your, basket of events that you're going to be handling. So that might be the lead manager or co-manager, you might be on a team, handling a big event,
Mm-hmm.
but this is like a bundle of what you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
responsible for. And at the end of the day, the way I measure their success is based on, our satisfaction of them handling it and having confidence and obviously learning and
Mm-hmm.
doing. But at the end of the day, it's the client satisfaction
Yeah.
that is the measurement. And so
Yeah.
I always tell my folks, look, you are going to screw something up. You're going to forget something. You are going to make a mistake. That is
Yeah.
hands
That's
down,
so good. Yeah.
without a doubt, you're going to screw
Yeah.
it up. I'm not measuring how many times that happens or if that happens or whatever. What I'm measuring and looking at is how you handle the
Mm-hmm.
situation. So if
Yeah.
drop the ball on let's say there's a deadline for a press release hitting, getting out and hitting
Mm-hmm.
a media outlet and you miss the deadline. And it causes a delay in something. How do you handle that? Do you go to the client and say, we totally dropped the ball on that, or we did not get something back from editing, or, graphic design
Mm-hmm.
wasn't done with it, and, whatever. Don't
Yeah.
give them the excuse, give them the solution and what we're going to do instead. Hey, we've done this, but what we're going to do is run an ad twice, next week, or
Mm,
we're going to double up our efforts. We're going to make good on this.
that's good.
So, also, I always tell the on-site teams, the clients emulate your behavior and your response.
Mm,
And this doesn't
mhm.
matter if you're at a arts and crafts show and you've got 10,000 people walking in the door, and there's a fire going on. Like, there's a possible fire. I mean, I've gotten on a loudspeaker before, and knowing that there could potentially be something going on in the back kitchen, and calmly, we've had a situation, we're going to need you to exit, calmly, we'll let you right back in. And the minute you get on and shout fire, it's chaos, and
Mhm.
attendees panic. But more importantly, that's rare. More importantly, with clients, the way you handle, okay, the wrong food was set out, or the food
Mm,
is late to get set out for the break that's about to happen in
yeah.
3 minutes, from the general session. Um, how do you handle that? And how is your demeanor? Because
Mm,
they mirror that. And as long as
mhm.
they feel confident it's handled,
Yeah.
then they're confident it's handled.
Right.
And so if you seem, you're sweating and you're, rushing around and just you're showing it, they're nervous that if you're nervous, something's really wrong. So some of that comes with time and experience,
Yeah.
just having things go wrong and then handling them cool, calm, and collected. But
Yeah.
for the most part, measurement is when we get rehired.
Yeah.
And,
That's
really,
good.
we're rarely, if ever, have had a company or a client that was not satisfied or that said, we choose not to hire you. We've definitely fired clients before. We'll get through the client event and then we'll just either throw on a hefty, increase to what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
The hours, it's a high maintenance or,
Mm,
demanding client that's never satisfied. And so at that point, I have to look at, is this worth the fee that we're about to
mhm.
charge for the morale of my team? And I've fired
Yeah.
clients and groups before because it was such a morale buster.
Yeah.
And my team worked so hard for some
Mm,
client or group that was just never satisfied
yeah.
from the standpoint the event was great, nothing went wrong. They had record
Hmm.
revenue, but they were just kind of jerks to work with.
Yeah.
And through the years, I've learned that like that's just not
Yeah.
worth to
I
my.
think yeah, it's not. I think that's good for a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders to hear that you can fire your clients
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I think it's really good. Where do you see innovation going long term? You've been doing this for 20 years. What do you see for the future?
Yeah. We are finally hitting full stride post COVID.
Mm,
Last year, we were back. We hit numbers that were exceeding what we were prior to COVID. And this year, we're on track to exceed that as well, which is phenomenal. Where we want to grow, internally, and I've shared this with the team, is that in the next 2 to 3 years, we want to open an office in the Washington, D.C. area and really expand on our GSA federal contracts and
mm-hmm.
clients. So we have a handful of big federal clients that we do work for. Some of them are based in DC. We do work for USDA all over
Yeah,
the US. So they don't necessarily, the events aren't always in the DC area, but they may be US wide. And we do events anywhere in the United States,
right.
all 50 states. We coordinate international trade shows for the state of Texas. Um, we don't do anything registration wise that includes foreign, conversions and all of that. We have
Mm,
not gone there, and I don't know that we ever
yeah.
will. But expanding our reach and our presence to
Mm,
have a hub in the um,
wow.
DC area is the
Yeah.
next
So
on, yeah,
kind of
on
would
deck.
that be like franchising or
It
more
would be a
just,
branch. It would be a
yeah,
second,
yeah.
yep, it would be a second location, there, and then longer term, we would expand. I have connections, with my husband in Florida, and Florida is a huge convention,
Mm,
world,
hmm.
just like Texas. And so I think longer term, 5 to 7 years from now, we would probably look at extending then
Yeah.
another branch, location where we've got a hub of people, and we've got a presence, probably work to do
Yeah.
state contracting
Sure.
in Florida, similar to Texas, and develop just like we did here,
Yeah.
word of mouth organically, what we can handle. We've last year was really hard because we were growing at a pace that was a little uncomfortable at times to manage and fulfill
Hmm.
the work we had. And there's that fine line of, you get hired to do this amazing job and you have an amazing team, but to an extent,
Yeah.
you have to really say, and we did last year, we actually turned down some business that was amazing
Mm,
opportunity business, but we were booked. We had 5 events going
mm,
on in the time period. And I politely declined and said I would love
yeah.
this work in the future. This is bigger work than what we've got, but we've made commitment and this is
Hmm.
where we are. I hope we can have that opportunity. And they came back this last year and we are now planning their 2026
That's
event
great.
for them. So,
Congratulations.
it's just having that
Yeah.
confidence. And I don't know, in early 2000s that, I would have not been hungry enough, first of all, to take it on and
Yeah.
figure it
Yeah.
out. And now you can do that when you have enough business, but it really is, there's kind of just some pivotal moments in leadership that your
Hmm.
team sees you decline work so that they're not just,
Yeah. Yeah.
working,
All the
to,
time.
yeah. And,
Yeah.
and so I think as long as you keep your team in mind and keep the healthy
Hmm.
pace of growth there, I mean, your team wants you to grow, right? And so they
Yeah.
know that as we grow, they grow, and
Yeah.
opportunities for leadership and
Yeah.
personal
That's good.
development. That's what I want. I guest lecture at A&M with an entrepreneurship
Oh.
class, and
Hmm.
I always love helping
Yeah.
young leaders and young entrepreneurs
Right.
because and I feel the same way about my young event managers. Like they're just, it's exciting to see them at the very beginning of, what'll be a long career. Or, I've had some that start with me for a number of years and then get married and then start a family.
Yeah.
And it's just, I've probably had 200 employees over 25 years.
Well, I
It's
was going to ask you that,
really
like with
cool.
your current office and then with some big goals, kind of twofold question.
Yeah.
How many how many employees do you have at this office and how many people does it take to run an office if you're looking to grow these? And then what are some roadblocks to meeting those goals to get into Washington, DC, or maybe Florida in 5 years?
Yeah. Yeah, so the size of our group is we've got 15 to 20 employees that are our core, either full-time,
Mm-hmm.
part-time, or our go-to folks. We also use a lot of contract work
Hmm.
in folks. So in some of our specific elements, when we need, AV specialist that does
Hmm.
just, let's say, recording high tech, needs a super
Hmm.
duper thing, we will bring in someone to do some of that. But that amount gets us what we need
Right.
on site and so forth. We've got some, we do some seasonal hiring for the arts and crafts shows. Those are called Jingle
Mm.
Jingle Marketplace. We rebranded those 2 years ago, and they're holiday shopping shows.
Yeah. Right.
Those we use like a different ticket team, on-site team. Like I said, that's actually a separate entity,
Hmm.
the Peddler
Hmm.
Show. And those we staff up as needed. And then some of our conferences, when there's 6,000 people, it's like all hands
Yeah.
on deck. And so
Yeah.
the coordination and logistical staffing, it's similar to um like a restaurant staffing
Mm.
shifts.
Hmm.
And our director of events and my partner that I mentioned, they are amazing at plugging in on a
Hmm.
calendar where people are going, what they're working,
Mm.
but not overloading,
That's
and
great.
making sure that that's working. So that sometimes we hit like a bottleneck time of year.
Yeah.
Fall in October is heavy conference and meeting season. There's
Yeah.
times during that we kinda go, can
Yeah.
we get through that week, or do we need to, hire on a seasonal team to help us through? So we
Mm.
kind of that ebbs and flows a little bit. As far as roadblock and bringing on more people, that
Hmm.
pace right now we're on pace to hire. Right now we're looking to hire another event manager in Q2. Um, Once a quarter is pretty much the pace that is a comfortable pace of onboarding and
Mm.
properly training and then setting
Hmm.
them to go before we can, look at the
Hmm.
next onboard. There's some back end administrative onboarding that's a little bit different than the
Hmm.
on-site event management team, but that pace seems very doable and manageable. Roadblocks for Washington, D.C. is clearly, hiring people that you trust that are out of
Hmm.
sight, out of mind on their own independence,
Yeah.
um, and that are really good at business development. Um, and they're not afraid to knock on doors and spend the time that it
Mm.
takes to really develop that. That'll take, a lot more of my time being up there as well,
Yeah.
which, I've got, 4 kiddos, and that can be challenging at times to
Yeah.
grow in a new spot,
Mm.
with
Mhm.
leadership and ownership. But, I don't think when we get to that point, we're looking at an office that would be located in Virginia, so kinda on the outskirts.
Yeah.
And I think finding, probably one main person and an assistant or an
Mm.
administrative office support person is how we would start that office,
Yeah.
and then quickly hire an event manager to either um, be part time up there, spend a
Yeah.
lot of time back and forth, or eventually, depending on the number of events in that area, someone that's there.
Yeah. That's
Um,
it's really exciting to think
yeah,
that what you've done for 20 years, you'll be able to duplicate. And
yeah,
really, like you said, the roadblock might be time, but as you duplicate and bring on people, it'll give you your time back at the same
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really exciting.
overwhelming at first,
Sure.
the thought of the growth is like, "Whoa," it's can we get there?
Mhm.
But it really is. I mean, the team, like what my team is doing now, versus what I had to handle early on, it's just a different level of teamwork. And
Mhm.
like I said, the for us, we've been very blessed with some tenured employees.
Yeah.
I've got an accounting manager that's been with me since I moved the company here 20 years ago. He's now, partially retired. He'll never fully retire. He loves working and he's awesome. But like just that, continuity and familiarity with the way we do business and the why. And then, like I said, we've got other, senior leadership that have stepped in and stepped up, and just watching them develop,
Yeah.
from 20 somethings to 30 somethings to eventually 40
Mhm.
somethings in their career path is just, it's very rewarding to see. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of times of my team, and team building, this past year has been really important for us. This spring we're going to do like some sort of volunteer effort as a team building that is a give back in the Austin area. Last year
Mm.
we got a lot of input. We did a lot of fun things. Like I said, it's a young group, so it's a fun, when we
Yeah.
finally get to, play instead of,
Yeah.
work. It's really fun, and everyone can get to know each other. We've done a lot of flexible things. Like we now, after COVID, we have people that live all over the US that work for
Mhm.
us. And even some of our senior leaders we've allowed to do that and then come back
Yeah.
once a quarter, maybe, once every 6 weeks. And then our folks in Austin work from home on Fridays. They have flex
Mhm.
schedules where they come in the office 3 days a week and just sort of, are very fluid. We give a lot of
Yeah.
flexibility with that
That's
because
great.
I put a lot of responsibility on,
Well,
and
I
with
think
that,
I think one of the things, like you said at the beginning, you're woman owned, you have a family, you know those things. So
Mhm.
I think that's great that you're able to build a company that's making a difference in the community, but also helping businesses succeed and grow. Because when you're putting on events for them, it's actually bringing awareness to them, training their team, I'm sure, if they're their own conferences. So I think you brought a lot of awareness to what event planning can and is.
Yeah, I always tell people they always hear event planning and assume we do weddings.
No, I
And
know.
I tell them we do literally any event except weddings. And I just that was an early on decision. We had the
Yeah.
opportunity and were contacted a number of times, especially when we were based in the hill country, and then early in Austin about planning weddings. And I was like, we
Mm,
could do that, but I'm not willing to do that.
yeah.
It's not a business to business or B2C
Mhm.
type thing. It's a very intimate, personal
Yes.
event. And that's just not what we're wanting to do. Now, I've plucked lots of event planning managers from the world of wedding planning that no
Yeah.
longer want to work every weekend, and they have
Mhm.
that skills that they've learned. And some of my best hires were wedding
I
planners.
bet.
But yeah, I mean, we will do like a big event within a convention. So, a lot of times they'll have like a big awards dinner or awards
Mhm.
night or gala or something within it. And so I always say, we'll plan a party or a holiday party
Yeah.
for a client as long as they're already a client. But we really look at it a little different than party planning, because party planning is, give me a budget and I'll go spend it. I'll charge
Yeah.
a percentage of it, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We look at every single event we do as a profit center for our clients. So we are looking at
Mm.
staying within what their boundaries are. So if it's a paid event and they're charging, you know, registration fees, what's the badge cost? What sponsor
Mm.
dollars are you getting? What government funding is paying for this? And then staying within a budget. That's a big piece of what we're hired to
Yeah.
do, is managing that budget and those expenses. Um, and we just look at it as we want them to be, that is a huge measurement of success.
Yeah.
A lot of our clients is how much money and profit did we make? Well,
Yes.
there's what we charge, which is, what it is.
Mhm.
And this is what we're going to negotiate to bring down your expenses and then stay within things and then boost your revenue
Yeah.
opportunities. And man, they just appreciate that we treat it like a business instead of just, we're just
Mhm.
another
Yeah.
expense, cost
Yeah.
center.
So
So,
good. I
yeah.
love it. I love it so much. So fun. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to have some more fun and do some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right, here we go. What would you say, Rachel, is the key to success for you?
The number one thing is hustle. I have
Mm.
said if I ever write a book someday, it will be titled Hustle, because It's just at the end of the day, we may not be the smartest, we may not be, the best priced, we may not,
Yeah.
have a connection, but I will outwork and out hustle anyone else in the room, put
Hmm.
in what is needed. And that's a throwback from being successful back in high school,
Yeah.
sports. And it's through life. If you can show that, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. W- It might be the same, but what would you say is a one piece of advice that you would give to other business owners?
I would say, the best advice and a hard lesson learned is when you know something's wrong or it's the wrong employee or it's the wrong client,
Hmm.
make the break sooner than later. So if you've hired someone that's not a fit culturally, not a fit work ethic, just not a fit skill set,
Yeah.
uh, just move on. Cut your
Yeah.
losses, do what you need to do, and don't waste time trying to make something fit,
That's good.
around or a square hole, round peg,
Yeah,
that whole thing. It doesn't work.
it
And
doesn't.
same goes for partners. I've had through the
Mm.
years a couple of partners that were not a fit. And
Yeah.
when you don't when you don't handle things, you just need to cut that loss and move on. And it's hard, but I
Yeah.
always say just, when you're looking at an event, we either, pull the trigger or pull the plug. And sometimes pulling
Right.
the plug is a better decision and just
Yeah.
cost effective even than
I love
doing
that.
something wrong.
So good. All right. Book or podcast? What are you reading or listening to right now?
I am actually reading on my nightstand. I have a couple of books about mental wellness.
Mm.
And one was I saw an author interviewed a few weeks ago, and it's a book called Beyond Anxiety. And it's
Mm.
more on a personal level, just understanding that from a standpoint of just mental wellness. We do
Yeah.
mental wellness hours and
Oh,
give
wow.
time to employees to just like, take an hour to go do what makes you happy. So that could
Mm.
be yoga, that could be taking a walk, take a nap. But that's a big piece of the work life balance. And, when those things, it's just important to understand that and how
Yeah.
it works for people and how it works within yourself. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the kick I'm on. It's actually I am
Good.
notorious for reading only, business
Yeah.
business stuff, but I've got a lot of I've got parenting books coming,
Yeah.
teenage books all over my place. But yeah, Beyond Anxiety. It's an interesting book. I'm
I'll have
only
to check that out.
yeah.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. I think sometimes when you're doing business and then reading business on your off time, you need a little bit, you need something different for sure. You need that wellness hour.
Yeah, self-care is really important, and that's a big piece. I mean, I personally have had a couple of times recently and further back that I had, personal crisis that I had to deal with, and I have
Yeah.
leaned hard and been carried by, my
Mm.
partners, my team, and I'm always very open and honest with my team. If I'm unavailable or I'm not present for something, I tell them what's going
Yeah.
on. I don't try to hide that because I'm real, I'm a human. And I always want to offer the same for them. So we've
Yeah.
health issues with employees, we've had family crisis, we've had things, and I always feel like, I mean, we're your family too, but
Yeah.
your number one priority is your own mental, wellness
Mhm.
and taking care. You're working to live, you're not living to work. And it's
So
just,
good. True.
getting that balance right. And especially as a young adult where, you're kind of pressured to like move up,
Yeah.
work hard and work all the time. You can work really hard, but figure
Mhm.
out what makes you happy. So
Good. Good. Well, this is one of my favorite fun questions.
yeah.
If you had a little bit of magic dust, you could just sprinkle it anywhere in your business. Where would you sprinkle it?
Um, that's a good question. I would sprinkle it into a full-blown National Instruments company size HR department. So
Yeah, that's
the
really good.
HR element is still, I wear that hat. It's, it's when, especially, like I said, we did hire a onboarding coordinator last year, but it's, I still we've grown a lot, but I still want that personal touch. I
Mhm.
interview every candidate as their last
Mm.
step of getting hired. I want to meet and know the team. I may not know them at the level I knew the team when we were 5 or 6
Yeah.
or 7 people, but as we grow, I wish I could duplicate myself, and
Mhm.
be more places, from an HR
Yeah.
standpoint, or sprinkle the dust to sort of be at the office, or be where I need to be, and float around. But that's just trusting your team. They're
Yeah.
an extension of me and my brand and what I've built. And I always tell people when they hire, it's I'm hiring you and I'm trusting you to do your job.
Yeah.
I do not micromanage. I assume that I've hired you and you're gonna get it done. So it's having, as we grow, having an HR, that's probably one of the next
Yeah.
hires that we'll get to, is just managing that.
It's really good.
So
That's good advice, I think, for a lot of people anyway. And one of the last things that entrepreneurs bring into. So that's really good advice to hear that.
it's
Yeah.
hard. Yeah,
Bef-
it's a lot of hats. We wear a lot of
we
hats.
do.
It's hard to give up, the reins and
Mm-mm.
trust and delegate.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest. That was one of the hardest things for me, stepping into, supervising role, managing role, running
Yeah.
a business, and knowing I can't be everywhere all the time.
It's
So
true. It's
yeah.
true. Well, before we get to the final question of the day, share with our audience how they can follow innovation or even hire you.
Yeah. Well, innovation, if you go to iemshows.com, that is the best place to start, on our website. So you can find, whether you're a government,
Mm.
purchaser, or you're a nonprofit executive director, or you're just, a corporate event manager that needs an easy button
Yeah.
and help. You can start there, by seeing all the information, our scope of
Mm.
work, our services, a little bit of what we do. But what we encourage everyone to do is take a look at that, make sure you know what we can do, but
Yeah.
then reach out to us, send us an email, info@imshows.com. And what we do is we set up a call to just get to know
Yeah.
what it is the needs are. So it's less of a, we need this or we need that. A lot of our government folks, contact us through our GSA or text mass,
Mm.
contracts. But even then, we get so much more
Yeah.
accomplished, reaching out to a purchaser. That is the best way. Social media. A lot of what we do is actually, we're not allowed to talk about. We have
Oh, true.
a lot of our government stuff is not,
That makes a lot
public.
of sense.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
public information. So on a social media standpoint, we've won the Aggie 100, which is, Texas A&M owned or operated companies. It's the fastest 100 growing
Congratulations.
companies in the
Wow.
world, and we've won
Wow.
that. We won it this last year. It was our fourth time to win it. We won it before COVID, and then we won it last year again, and we were really really excited. So we'll throw that up on social media and kind of
That's
talk about
cool. Yeah.
ourselves. That we really should do a better job of promoting those sort of things. But it's like drinking out of a hose sometimes,
Yeah.
what we've
For
got
sure.
coming in. And like I said, some of our most exciting work is we've got NDAs that we can't even talk about it, or
Mm.
can't disclose it on the
Yeah.
government, the federal side and some of that stuff. But nonetheless, our website is a great place to start, in looking into
Yeah.
it. So yeah.
That's good. All right. Well, we've come about to the end of the show, and I really love this question because it's one of my favorites because it also inspires me. But what I like to ask every single guest that comes through is, what's inspiring you today?
That's a great question any day. Inspiring me today, would probably be my family,
Mm,
and just fulfilling, everyone's happiness on whatever
mm,
level that is. So, if that's folding, my kiddos' laundry so that, it's ready for them,
Great.
getting them ready for school, making sure they have what they need, supporting, my other ones in what their day looks like, reaching out to my husband and wishing him good luck in a big,
Mm-hmm.
business meeting he has going on. I, some days, you've got so many things going on, that you kind of lose track
Yeah.
of being there for other people. But my family inspires me to work hard, to do things like
Mm-hmm.
this,
Mm-hmm.
to get up and be proud of what I do, because they see that, they feel that, they see me happy, and
Yeah.
that then just kind of exudes into, all the
Yeah.
places you touch,
So
throughout
cool.
your day. And so, yeah, today it's, I'm doing a few things that make me happy. And this is kind of a press pause and do something that's really
Yeah.
cool and different. And, doing other things this afternoon that
I
are
love it.
a little bit different. So, yeah, just kind of growth, personal growth, is inspiring and something that I think is important for everybody. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So good. I love it. Well, I'm inspired by just being a women-owned business, and I love all
Yeah.
things events, and just hearing your journey has been so cool. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
your story. And I just want to encourage everyone listening to reach out to Rachel, either to hire her or just say hello and tell her you heard her on our podcast here. And with that said, I just want to encourage everyone to don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. But a special thank you to you, Rachel. This was such a great conversation. Thank you so
Yeah. This
much
is
for sharing your
fun.
journey. It was
Thank you
fun.
for having me. Yeah, absolutely.